bruv, so when you came here, I sent you a picture.
I accidentally opened it.
Did you open it? Did you see it? Yeah?
I accidentally just opened it.
Alright, so that picture, that was taken in, I'll put it up on the screen. That picture was taken in...
No, don't put that.
That was taken in 2015, so that's nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And if I describe the picture, like we're sitting in a warehouse, and there's just sitting there,
doing
and I
work.
think we're supposed to be doing work, but we're sitting in a warehouse and there's a broom next to you, and I think I put up on Instagram. I said something like, Rodney in his caretaker house, or so like, I think if someone was to come to you on that day and said, "Wow, brothers, look, there's gonna be a point where you're now in this position where you own your own company and you're more or less responsible for hiring and paying people this, that, and the other." I'm sure it would have been a case of, do you know what I mean? It's somewhat like it would have been felt surreal in a sense. So like, what I want to know from you is like, going from that picture to where you are today, in a sense. One, does it feel like, in a sense, that you've sort of arrived, in a sense that like I said, I'm sure at the time if someone described your situation you're in now, you would have been like, I'm good. Because I think even at that time, we spoke to people who had their own companies, and it was in a sense of, okay, you know what, you're all right. So in a sense, you'd think to yourself, you just kind of need to maintain this now. One, I want to ask, do you feel like that in a sense that you can relax, or do you feel like no, is it still the same thing of, are you still in the same mindset? Because even back then, you were still trying to get things going at the time, with like whether it was cars or whatever it was. So man, I'd like to know, like, in terms of your journey, it's from going from that picture to, do you know what I mean? To where you are now.
So we must have been like 22, 23.
Yeah.
Because I was still in uni. Because I when we're doing those shifts, sometimes because you on the normal.
Yeah.
Because you'd been there.
Yeah, I'd come down.
You were fancy. You were upstairs. So I would do the normal shift and then have to drive to uni. And remember, I'd flunked first year of uni because I was just...
Oh, really?
I remember Brighton.
Oh, yeah.
I was having a great time. So I never had any plans to own my own business at the time. I just wanted to get my degree and go work for someone. Yeah. That was the plan.
Right, okay.
So... What
was your degree in? Was it in...
So I started building surveying.
Right, okay, yeah.
Started in Brighton. First year, I did nothing. And then my mum and dad were like, look, we can't fund this lifestyle anymore. So either you transfer or you get a job. Redo first year, get a job, and then you pay your rent and whatever. And I didn't really want to work while I was at uni, but when I moved back home, I just decided, you know what, let me just get my degree out the way, and then whatever, and then. Oh,
so is that why you started? Because when you came back from Brighton and started again, because it was Chelmsford you started.
Anglia Ruskin in Chelmsford, yeah. So
I just thought you just started to change the scenery.
No. It was because I flunked first year.
Right.
And I remember you basically get 4 years of funding.
Right.
Right. And then because usually some people do a foundation degree and then you move up to your bachelor's or your whatever.
Yeah.
So I still had my 3 years of funding left, so I was like, I can't waste it.
Yeah.
But the problem was, to get into the same course again at Anglia Ruskin, I had to start on the foundation.
Oh.
Right? So which potentially meant I had another 4 years. So the reason I started working at Mimeo was, one, to fund obviously my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I've always liked buying cars and trying to sell them on. But the other reason was I needed to save for that extra year.
Oh,
Right.
I see.
So, but after first year, I passed 60% plus.
Oh,
So
did
they
ya?
just move you on to the BSc.
Right, okay. I see what
It's
you mean.
like skipping a year, basically.
yeah.
Right. So then, but then Mimio was fun. Like, you remember what it was like.
it
It was just
yeah.
the reason I've got that broom next to me. I was supposed to be doing some other stuff, but I basically had like a bunch of different jobs. My
Yeah.
job was to sit and man that machine.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
But then I'd get given different things to do, and I just kind of did my own thing.
Yeah. No,
And
it's
I
a
like
relaxing
that.
environment,
But
yeah.
I remember we used to have conversations, and we used to sit in the canteen and watch people.
Mm.
I remember we used to have conversations about how, like, I think you used to say, like, these people, like, this is it for them.
Yeah. Because
Like-
because I think at the time, well, neither one of us had like real responsibilities. I didn't have little man or my daughter Eden, and it was just a case of we're just. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it was-
But there's some people who had full on families,
Yeah.
and I remember at the time that we spoke about this. Like the only one person that was there that wasn't in that category was that one old guy. That when we started speaking to him, you found out he was like some scientist.
Yeah,
that used
yeah.
to make I don't know what. But yeah, at the time
And
he seemed as if
he'd lost his job, though. I think there's a lot of redundancies at the time.
right.
So he'd lost his job, and I think for him, he probably had loads in savings, and then it just became a thing where if I go work at Mimio, he could have gone to work anywhere. It didn't have to be that
he
company.
he had some wild background.
But yeah, we were like the youngest there.
Yeah.
So I think being in positions like that
Yeah.
helped because you sort of got an insight into what's in store for you
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, and look, we've grown up here, and you remember what it was like when we were kids. Like, there was no one else like us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and people that maybe some people realise it or they don't realise it, but when you used to be able to count, we knew every black person
Literally, yeah.
in
There was
like
no-
in the county, and
Yeah.
you knew if you saw like a black person you didn't know,
Yeah.
you'd recognise it straight away.
100%.
So being in those environments always made you feel like if you were smart enough, I think you'd take that and you'd think, "Do you know what, I need to, because I stand out anyway."
You stick out like sore thumb, so you need to do something.
Yeah, you try and
Yeah.
not play it down, but you kind of, you either want to be in the shadows
Yeah.
because you're always going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing was, like having the parents we had,
Yeah.
you had to do something
Yeah.
because there was always that thing where it's like you can't just do
Nah.
what they can do because
because I think
Yeah.
because of course even us being here, there's always a case of we brought you here so you can
yeah.
try and do something. Do you know what I mean? Do
Yeah.
something, not just.
And sometimes you'd look at like our white friends and whatever, and they could do certain things and navigate themselves into certain roles that for some reason we just couldn't do it like that.
You know what's funny? It's interesting you said it because I remember there's times when I used to see. I remember there's a lot. I remember that at one point. I'm pretty sure like most of our year worked in Wilkinson's, in Wilco's.
So did I.
But like I remember when I used to see like our white friends working there, I never saw anything wrong with it. I just thought,
Yeah.
working. But for some reason, for me, I thought like if I go and work, if I'm not doing something and I don't like do something more than that,
Yeah.
then I feel like I'm gonna like. Do you know what I mean? I felt a sense of I can't just. But the thing, and again, it wasn't like not that there's anything bad with working in Wilco's, but I felt like if that's all I did and I was just, it would seem as if it was like I wasted something that, do you know what I mean, that I didn't necessarily quite work for. And I felt like, it was, because I remember when I used to look at, when I used to see, when we were in Mimio and we'd sit in the canyon and because the canyon there's a massive window so you can still see everybody still working. There was an element of, the only time I thought like a negative connotation to working there forever was just when I imagined myself doing it. But when I saw like our white counterparts do that, it didn't seem like there's anything wrong with it. But just for the thought of me just doing just that and forever, it just seemed like as if like I'm wasting like an opportunity that I've not necessarily that's been given to me by my mum and dad. I've not worked for. So yeah, I totally understand what you mean. But yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I didn't realise that was the reason why you came back. I genuinely just thought you were like, you know what, Brighton's long. I'm gonna come and.
Nah, I loved Brighton, yeah, and that was the first time I'd left home. Like, so I went to boarding school. Like, my whole primary school was boarding school, so I didn't live at home. Like, my whole primary school. So,
right. Was that in England or?
No.
Oh, so he was back in SA.
Yeah, in Zim.
In Zimbabwe, sorry.
So, but that I don't class that as having left home. It probably has an impact on my upbringing and how I am. Like, I think it gives you like a level of independence that you don't even realise.
Yeah, I was gonna say
you have, because I've always just been.
Mind state
Just that need to be at home all the time, or be around your parents all the time, or just being around other people all the time. I've never really had that, because from basically equivalent of like year 2, I lived away from home. Yeah. So true. I was never around my family as much as pretty much everyone else.
Yeah, true.
Apart from school holidays. So that when I went to Brighton, first year, I couldn't get into halls, because I was meant to go Nottingham first. Yeah. And then Brighton accepted me, and then I thought, you know what, maybe Brighton's better.
Yeah.
So I ended up in a shared house, right? And being in a shared house, I felt like I missed out on the whole first year. Because you want to be in the mix of it with everyone. But then I realised that actually living where I was living with the people I was living with, it actually worked out quite well.
Yeah, well, I remember we went there.
You guys would come and see me, and it was so much fun.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But a little bit too much fun. Because my timetable was 6 hours a week. Yeah, so 6 hours a week. I wasn't working because had some money aside, so knew the rent was taken care of, but that was also to my detriment, because I wasn't working. I didn't really have anything else to do. So, but yeah, when I went to ARU, because I wasn't living there, I literally had, the few friends I had were on my course.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and they were living there, but I had to leave straight after, come back home, get to work. Yeah. That helped me. Yeah. And then that just became my routine. So that is like a level of discipline I had to have. Like, you have to wake up, go to work, then go uni, or go uni, then come back after uni, do the night shift. Yeah. And it was long, but
I think one of the things, it was probably necessary, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then I think when I started to look at things slightly different was my friend Callum, who is still my friend now, actually, and we've done some work together and stuff. They own a construction business. Yeah. And he was my best friend at uni when I went to Chelmsford. Yeah. So, but for them, it's a family business.
Right, okay.
Right, so he works there. Dad started the company.
This is the wood veneer place?
No, this is AOD.
Oh, okay.
Which is another firm.
Right, okay.
But Callum was at uni doing building surveying while working for the family business. Right. And also playing football in Bromley.
Oh, okay.
But he was staying in Chelmsford.
Oh, was he?
And then I just used to watch like this level of freedom he had. Yeah. When it comes to work, because you're working for the family business. Yeah. And there's a thing which I've realised now, like owning my own business, and I didn't get to that point so I graduated in 2013, 2014. Yeah. And I worked So my first job was for a timber frame construction company.
Yeah.
Stayed there a year, and I left. Don't know if you remember why I left, but it was mad. It was.
That's why I think I want to touch on it a bit. But yeah. I remember you said it.
But that gives you a wake up call into when you go work for people.
Yeah.
You've got all these challenges. Everyone has obviously different challenges with the places they work and the people they work with.
Yeah.
But then there's like an extra layer.
Yeah, that's true.
That if you just go through life thinking, you'll get a wake up call.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then
I tell you, before you move on from actually, let's just quickly touch on this. I remember, like, I remember where I was working, but I think I was I was delivery driving then. Because I remember you rang me and you was like, "Oh, you never guess what?" And I remember like I was first like I think I was mid-flow sorting out my parcels, and then you explained the situation to me. I tell you, I'm gonna let you retell the situation.
I won't even go.
You ain't got, don't mention the names, but it's just you ain't even gonna mention the name of the company.
Yeah,
but just the brief scenario.
Basically, what it was, I was working under someone who. So my role was at the time. So I'd graduated building surveying, and I was taken on as a quantity surveyor. Right.
Okay.
But that didn't transpire for weeks after I'd been working at this company.
Oh, really?
That they wanted a quantity surveyor, but they took me on because of my degree as a building surveyor.
Right.
And they felt they could train me. During my probation, they figured I could do the job well. So let's train him to be in this role. Yeah. But imagine you start at a company, right? You meet, there's the director, then there's, like other upper management. Yeah. The person that I'm supposed to be shadowing ends up being too busy with other things. So I then get put under the care of someone else. Right. But that someone else had their own agenda. Yeah. And their own views on different types of people. Yeah. So you soon establish that, do you know what? We don't like each other. Yeah. We're not going to get on. Yeah. But it's your first job. Yeah, so you kind of... I'd never been paid that kind of money before. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Right? And, I'd never had a company car. I'd never had all these other things. Yeah. So I was like, is this what it's like to be a grown-up? Yeah, you just go with it, don't you? So I just went along with it. And then there were times where things would be said in a certain way. Yeah. And you just kind of like... maybe they meant this. Yeah. You give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. But then over time, you're like, no. And then, bro, little things like in meetings, board meetings, subcontractors would come in, clients would come in. Who's making tea? I'd be like, first 3, 4, 5 times, cool. After that, and the way I am, I'm not like I don't like to be confrontational till I feel like this is justified. Yeah. And then one time, a subby that used to come in all the time. Yeah. So we'd built some rapport and we were cool now. Yeah. He's come in. Other guys looked at me. Yeah. Like, you know what time it is, kind of thing. And I've just sat there. Yeah. Yeah. And he's looking at me like, I thought you know the score, and I'm not moving, so I'm just there looking at him, and I'm talking to the subby because now me and him know each other. We talk now. Yeah. So remember, there is someone downstairs whose role it is. It's supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah. So I then think to myself, I know what I'll do. So I press the call, call downstairs,
Mm.
and I make the request,
Right.
and the tea comes up as it should, as it happens with everyone else.
Yeah.
And then mate, he's looking at me like he's fuming. Yeah. And then, so that's the sort of thing I had to deal with at that firm.
Yeah.
Everyone else was cool.
Yeah.
Right. But remember now, I'm a graduate.
Yeah.
But I've gone from being a graduate, my first 3 weeks, I'm just learning the ropes, learning how things work.
Yeah.
And at the end of the first month, I'm now upper management.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because my role, I was the first QS at that company.
Right.
Inherently, if there isn't a senior QS above you,
Yeah. Then
you just go. But everyone I was working around, even the guys in the warehouse, because we'd worked with people in those roles, like a Mimeo, our people, as in our friends and other people we're associated with.
Yeah.
At that time, we were young. We were all doing those sort of jobs anyway.
Yeah,
so you're used to you go downstairs, you talk to them like normal people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I started to see, and you probably remember when you were upstairs, where it's like a hierarchy.
Yeah.
We don't hang out with people over there.
Yeah.
There's always that happens everywhere, but
yeah. Because I remember a couple of times, someone would say to me, "Where'd you go for lunch?" I was like, "Downstairs."
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, because they've got their place upstairs, so they're like, "Why would you go downstairs?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did that. Like, yeah.
So I got on with everyone else.
Yeah.
So this one day, what led up to me leaving, we're all sat in an office upstairs, and we'd moved from. It was quite lucky actually, because originally when I started, our offices were on the other side of the building.
Right.
And it was like the FCO, the CEO, and then me and this other guy had our own office. So there was 4 offices on the other half, and then they decided, you know what, we want to knock down this half of the building, because we need more warehouse space. So we're going to move the offices to that side of the building. So have an open office.
Okay. Yeah.
For the estimators,
Yeah.
the project managers, and the QSs. So, if this phone call that I'm about to tell you about had happened while we're still on the other side, it would have been a completely different. Like, I may not be in the position I'm in now.
Wow, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But it was lucky that we moved offices.
Yeah.
And then, matey had a day off, so he's at home, doing whatever he's doing at home.
Yeah.
And he's rung in, as he used to do. He's very controlling, like very weird guy.
Yeah.
He's rung in, basically to check on what I'm doing for the day.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've told him whatever. I've then, I think he had to be put on hold.
Yeah.
No, sorry. The phone's been transferred. He's rung the main line. It's been transferred to my phone.
Yeah.
I've then finished. I put the phone down, right? He's then been passed back to someone else he wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
They put him on speaker.
Yeah.
Right. While he's on speaker, they've finished having their convo.
Yeah.
He thinks he's hung up. The buyers have been said he thinks he's hung up, right? And the guy that he was talking to was one of the estimators, used to sit next to me.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's hung up now, and then he starts.
Is he now speaking to someone that's like in this
He's
wherever
not-
he is?
So he had builders at his house,
Right. Yeah.
right? Because he was renovating his house. Now he's talking to whoever he's with,
Yeah.
and then he starts saying stuff. So the first thing he said wasn't anything. Fair play to him, it bigged me up a little bit.
Yeah.
It was tell you exactly what he said. He said, this Rodney guy, nice African lad. He said, but there's just something about those people.
Really?
Right? And I'm like,
Oh shit.
what? And then it carried on. The other guy, you know, when you hear someone have that uncomfortable laugh.
Yeah. Like, hey.
Yeah. So then, but I remember everyone in the office is listening to this now. Said some other stuff, and it didn't use the N-word or nothing like that.
Yeah.
It was just like derogatory stuff.
Yeah.
But
Like
in the
he made
same
it clear
token,
how he felt.
yeah, he was like, look, he's doing his job well, but there's just something about them, blah, 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 and whatever. But because everyone's heard now,
Yeah.
but no one let him know that the phone was still on.
Right.
I think he's realised, and then it's obviously cut off.
Yeah.
And then that just became topic of discussion for the day.
Right, okay.
Um,
And I've, you know, to interrupt you, that's one of them situations where I think had everyone not heard it and it's just been you, if you try to relay that back and say and try to explain what the guy said and how and sort of kind of what it meant and what it represented, it would have come across as if you were just trying to be a bit. Do you know what I mean? It would have been a situation where you had to be there, and I think because everyone was there, you didn't have to sort of have to do that.
It's one of those things where I would have had to think, do I even bother saying anything?
Because unless in a hearsay situation, unless they've full on actually said the N-word or they said I don't like this black such and such, then
it's not just that, yeah. It's would I have even said anything because you look at the people around you.
Yeah.
I don't know these people too well.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of relationship they've got.
Yeah.
I don't know how far they go back.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their views are.
Yeah. Was this a general sort of thing before I came here?
Yeah. So now everyone's heard it. Yeah. So now it's embarrassing.
Yeah. No, it is.
It was embarrassing. In a way, I didn't feel like it needed to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've not brought this on. Like he's just said what he said to someone else.
Yeah.
Right? Why should I be embarrassed?
Yes, yeah.
And then as another lad that sat to my right, me and him are still cool now. He's the one that was like, mate, like if you need me to come in and be a witness and whatever, just shout me.
Yeah.
Other guy to my left, older guy, he was probably at the time about 45.
Yeah.
He'd been there since he was 16.
Oof.
Yeah. He knew the guy. He was taken on by the guy who started that company.
Right. Okay.
Like back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was still a family owned business.
Yeah.
And the main guy who owned the business, he was fine. He was a bit tough, but he was always like fine and fair.
Yeah.
My first thought was I need to tell him,
Yeah.
but at the time he'd stopped coming into the office as much, and I wasn't really seeing him that much. And my first thought was I need to tell him.
Yeah.
Everyone that was privy to this conversation was basically like, look, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And they didn't like this other guy. No one in the company liked this guy.
Right.
Because he was just,
one of them.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was the longest day ever. Because this happened at like 11 a.m. Bro, that was the longest day ever. And I was never in the office every day, all day. Because I had to go do my site visits and whatever.
Yeah.
But that day, I had to be in the office. Because I had some tenders to get out and whatever.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I don't need this shit. Like this is just long. You know, when because you start thinking to yourself, do you know what? Even if this gets resolved,
yeah,
I don't want to work here anymore.
Yeah, I think it's one of them things because like there's been like any time I've had very few. I've had very few like blatant racial moments where someone has basically full on said to me, "You're an N-word" or whatever. I've had very few of those moments, very few. But I've had a lot of like the undertone ones or the indirect ones, and most of the time, and especially like when I'm building building sites, where they'll say something about immigrants or foreign people, and then they'll say something like, "Oh, you're all right, mate." And there's an element I think to myself that one, how long have you been waiting to say that? Well, it seems as if you waited for me until you felt comfortable, so you can say this thing. Because before that, you thought you might take it a bit in a certain type of way, but it suggests. And I thought to myself, I've always thought it suggests that you feel comfortable, or before I came here, before anyone of color came here, you guys were just letting this fly. Yeah, and there's an element that maybe you're like this particular person. You're the only one who is, I don't know, dumb enough to just start saying these things, and everybody else had this sense to be like, you know what, let's not use that language right now. So it's a case of I don't know if I'm the butt of the joke and I'm not aware of it. So it's a case of I understand your feeling being in that environment, because it's a case of, am I missing something here, in the sense of if I wasn't here, would that have just been? Are you guys feeling uncomfortable because I'm here, or because of what you've actually heard?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I can imagine where you're like, you know what? There's no.
Yeah. At the time, I remember this is like 2013, 2014. Tell you now, if someone said anything remotely like that now, I feel like for the most part, a lot of people will be like, "You are not getting away with that." A few years ago, like something like that might not have been that bad.
Yeah.
Right, and obviously I felt the way I felt, so I'd decided at that point, and I'd been there, I'd passed my probation and everything like that, and I was just like, do you know what? I don't want to work in an environment with people like that, because remember, I knew I would still have to work under this guy and shadow this guy, because he was the only other person that did my role at that firm, right?
Yeah.
So day after, now by the end of the day, it was in the warehouse.
Right.
Everyone knew about it.
You're right.
Right. And I then just thought, like my time is done.
Yeah.
So straight away I started looking for other jobs.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew that, and this is partly why, like the whole uni thing, for me had always been for this very reason. I don't want to ever feel stuck in any role.
Yeah.
I want to always have that as a backup. So if I need to move on to something else, I can do that, knowing that I've got that piece of paper that says, you're qualified to be
exactly,
here. Right. So I spoke to, I think it was Hayes, because I do a lot of construction stuff.
Yeah.
So, and Hayes found me this job as an estimator.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never done that. Anyway, I went for an interview at this other firm. And I ended up there till like lockdown, basically.
Right. Yeah, because I was going to ask actually, because I didn't, until we went out that day, we went to London that day, I didn't realise you had actually made the transition from now you're running your own company. At the time, I still thought you was still working with Matey, or you was kind of in like a partnership in a sense. So I was going to ask, when did that transition take place? Was that during lockdown or just after lockdown, in terms of when you actually...
I was at that other firm for over 6-7 years, whatever. And then that company, when I started, it was a small business, right? And by the time I left, they were doing 6-7 times what they were doing when we started there. Right. And that taught me everything I needed to know about shop fitting.
Right.
And it was a great company till, you know, you get to a point where you're like, do you know what? We've, like, as a collective, built this to be something, like, and the money, you look at the money and you're like, the money's good.
Yeah.
But I want more now.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Like, in terms of, was it, because I remember when you were telling me like sort of the numbers at the time when you were going to take the job, I thought you're pretty much, you're good, sort of, in the sense all you got to do is kind of just stay there.
Yeah.
Was it just a case of you just got to a point where you're like, you know what, let me just do this for myself? Because from what I understand, that it was, the work environment was fine. Did you just, was you like, what did you have, like, was there like a click moment where you're like, you know what, let me make this for myself?
The work environment was fine. The people I worked with, I'd now kind of basically grown up around.
Right, yeah.
Right? And it was like a little family.
Yes.
And the problem was, I talk to people how I want to be spoken to, yeah?
Sure.
And if you've got, let's say, your boss...
Yeah.
And you don't realise it till you're in his position, where the frustration, the worries and all these things come into play, can make you sometimes react in ways that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I would just watch the manner in which certain people are spoken to, and sometimes even myself.
Yeah.
Right? And you just, as you get older, as a man, I don't know if it's ego or if it's just pride.
Yeah.
But
I know what you mean. You get to a point where you're like, because in almost every 9 to 5 job I've been in, there's always been an element of like, I don't know. It's like, all I can describe it as is, so and so's my manager, and all I can describe it as is, if we were outside of this environment,
would you talk to me
exactly?
Like that?
Yeah. And there's an element that you know and I know it, and there's an element that, like, if I was to address you the way I would outside, it would then become a problem in terms of discipline. And it seems as if, if I wouldn't take this kind of disrespect outside, why would I then accept that here? And also on top of that, it's not necessary. You could just tell me, this is the job, go do it. That's fine.
And
so
look, people make mistakes.
Yeah.
And whatever. So, you know, if someone does something wrong at work, if you're losing the business money, then that's a different thing.
That's a different thing,
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes some people are just incompetent.
Yeah.
Right? So they need to be moved on to something else.
Yeah.
And my thing is, and I guess it comes with age as well. Like you realise that, and part of it is, do you need to be, like, just how much do you need to be in a position that you don't want to be in for the sake of money?
Yes.
Right? How much money does it take for you to just put up with certain things?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I was like, I got to a point where I started to clash with my superiors. Right. I only really had one.
Yeah.
And the reason was, you know, you find it even in friendships where nothing's ever really fully equal.
Yeah, no.
Sometimes you do more for other people than
absolutely.
They do for you, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
At work, if you're bringing in X amount of money,
then,
and if my job is to price work, win work, hand that over to someone
Yeah.
to then make sure it makes money.
Mm.
And then there's favoritism.
Yeah.
There's like the dynamics. This is with every business. Like the dynamics just are what they are. And sometimes it ends up not suiting who you are as a person. And after so many years with these same people, nothing's going to change, bro. Like,
no, absolutely not.
So got to that point where I was like, do you know what? And it was amicable split. I sat down with my boss at the time. I said, look, I think it's time for me to move on. Like it's been a great few years.
Yeah.
But I definitely need to move on now, because you know when you start to harbour negative feelings and you start to dislike people's personalities when it should just be work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When it starts getting personal.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm gonna move on. Yeah. And this is before we knew anything about lockdown. So when I've handed in my resignation, I've got plans. Yeah. I've got people I've been talking to. I had people who said, look, listen, you could do so much more over here. Yeah. Like, and I was out for drinks with someone, and they're like, listen, why don't you come partner up with me over here? Yeah. Because I've got this going on, and you're good at this. Just come partner up with me. Yeah. And I was like, I'll hold you to that. Yeah. And then went back to work. A couple of months passed by. Mm-hmm. Handed in my resignation, and then I was like, do you know what? Before I look for another job, let me just call up what's his face and see if he was serious. Yeah. Called him up. I was like, let's have a meeting. I'm like, all right, cool. We met up, sat down, came up with a plan. And at the time, it was one of those where, imagine you say that to me, and we meet up, we try and strategize briefly. Yeah. At like a service station. Yeah. Like, this is what we can do. And then day after we met, I was like, do you know what? Come down to the office. Let's come up with a name. Let's come up with... And I'm like, yeah, these are serious. Like, and it all just started moving quick. Yeah. And then next thing you know, within like that month... Yeah. COVID. I'm like, what's going on? Because I'm trying to start this thing over here. All I'm hearing is COVID. And like, no one's going to work this week. And then, but at the time, I wasn't at work anyway. Yeah. So, and I remember I was waiting for my final paycheck from the old place. Yeah. So that's how quickly this was happening. Yeah. So now I'm like, yo, what? And then
I was thinking, like, just really like, in like the thing is, in hindsight, when you tell someone certain situations that happened in COVID, in hindsight, you're like, oh, okay, but at the time, like the uncertainty of what's going on, like even me during that time, most days I'd wake up and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna go to work tomorrow. Like you just didn't know what was gonna happen. Sorry, I carry on.
Bro, what was crazy was I wasn't even thinking about all of that. I was just, my mind was on, I'm trying to start a business. I've never had a business before. I'm trying to start one. How do I do it? Yeah. Fuck all the COVID stuff. I don't even think we're calling it COVID at the time.
No, at the
it
time
didn't have a name. It was just, there seems to be this thing going around. People are maybe not going to work. Yeah. Some companies were still letting people come in.
Well, you think it's going to blow over anytime soon? Yeah.
Furlough wasn't even a thing. Yeah. So we start talking to people, like prospective clients. And I had loads of contacts in the industry. Just talking to people, seeing what they've got coming up. And luckily, because I started talking to them early doors, before the company was even registered and all these things, they were like, do you know what, might have something coming up such a time, but we'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
And then one guy was like, yeah, I've got something. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. And then, so then we started working towards that.
Right, okay.
Right? And then by the time it started livening up, no one's going to work now. Everyone's working from home. I'm like, fuck's sake. So then it got a little bit easier in that in construction we were allowed to go to work.
Yeah.
So I would go to Essex to the office.
Yeah.
Sit down, do whatever we needed to do, go to London, have my meetings.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, client committed.
Yeah.
Paid a deposit. And at that point, I was like, okay, at least now I know I've got some money that's going to be coming in.
Well, like at that point, was it like? Did you have that feeling of, okay, this is happening, like it's real now, in a sense, or had that still not hit you quite yet? Like, for example,
at that point, it had hit me.
Yeah.
But what also helped is because my business partner at the time had an established business.
Yes.
He actually said to me, do you know what? How much do you want? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, for you to come over, how much do you want? And
sounds like one of them trick questions.
At the time, it sounded like a trick question, but then what that made me start thinking is maybe I've been undervaluing myself.
Yes, yeah.
Because, and a lot of people do this. A lot of people don't realise, and I think me and you have had these discussions for years where I was like, right, and I've been working in London over 10 years now, and I've realised you talk to people, and people don't ever want to disclose their wages, but you talk to people over there and people down here, and you realise that down here, obviously the cost of living is different, but people our age, bro, they're making at least double what people down here are happy to make.
Yeah.
But people down here, I feel like, don't even quite realise that. It's not really a thing.
Yeah, and I think it is a thing, because I think there's an element, there's something about London that's like, not egotistic, but there's something about it like, it's kind of a case of, it's almost like if you're going there, there's always an undertone of you need to be operating at a higher level. So at the very least, you kind of got to have I don't know. There's an assumption that there's some ambition there. So I guess there's more.
I guess if you're leaving your hometown,
you're going for. Do you know what I mean? You're not just
to go to London. You're either getting away from, like, because everyone thinks where they're from shit, right?
Exactly.
So you're either getting away from that, or you're actually got that level of ambition which is driving you to go get it.
Yeah.
Right? So he's made this offer. It wasn't, at the time, it wasn't really an offer, it was just a statement that he made. And I was like, do you know what? I've underplayed my hand. I've said, I want this.
Right.
I say I've underplayed my hand. I didn't really, because at the time, even now, it was, if someone offered me that now, I probably wouldn't take it, but 99% of people I know who take it.
Yeah.
But he committed to that.
Okay.
So now I've only just had my last paycheck from the old place, but now I've got a new paycheck.
Yeah.
And then I was still in contact with a couple of people from my old place.
Yeah.
And then I still had access to my emails and stuff from the old place. I was doing handovers for projects.
Of course.
And there was one big project that I'd priced up, and then they submitted the cost and they won it. And then they've got back in touch with me to say, we've won that job.
Yeah.
but only you know what's going on with it, like the numbers.
Right.
Do you mind, while like this furloughing,
Finishing it.
do you mind doing like a handover for the next couple of months?
Right,
and
okay,
then I was like, yeah, I don't mind. And then, but the negotiation was, I want to be furloughed.
Yeah.
The guy was like,
from this other old company.
yeah, I'll furlough you till September.
Right.
This is like March, April. Now.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so now I know I'm covered pretty much for
Right.
most of the year.
Yeah.
And I've got a salary.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, so I've got 3 income streams now.
Right, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So what do I do?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to pursue my own thing.
Yeah.
So then I just did that, and then that first project, when it couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, and I always look back and I think, at the time, because this was all I'd ever done for like the last 7-8 years, right?
Yeah.
Numbers were my thing,
Yeah.
and you get used to operating. So you price a job.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes I would price jobs for that old firm. The smallest job they'd do would be like 150k. They wouldn't really touch anything less.
Right, okay.
So when I started my own thing now,
Yeah.
in my head, I've got it that this is what I want to be doing.
Right, okay, yeah.
Of course you want to be doing that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this job, I think the first job was like 450.
Oh, okay.
But in my head, this was just another normal job.
Of course, yeah.
And it's only when we started it, I was like, this is my first job on my own.
Right.
And if I think if I'd thought about it too much, I'd have felt like I'm biting off more than I can chew.
Yeah, I see what you mean, actually, yeah.
But I just realised that this is something I've always done anyway. There's nothing new here. This isn't like someone's giving me a job, nothing like anything I've ever done. So I just kind of got on with it, did the job, finished it, handed over, client paid, and then from there, that same client has given me, I'd say, easily over 20 jobs.
Really?
Since over the years.
And it's just a case of sort of like from just take that first job, you just kind of just built from that and just kind of just...
Yeah. Because it was a success, it kind of helped. It just became, it was like a snowball effect. And now people now know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
You then start to get referrals, and then you know, and I've been a bit, I should have started this from 2020, like the social media marketing and all those things. But over the years, you start to learn exactly what it's like to have your own business, and it's not a joke.
And this is what I was asking, because it's like, in terms of, because like now you're basically fully into it now. You're basically you're aware now. Okay, look, I've got my own business. and I'm doing what I'm doing. And I guess in a sense of you're now. Because remember I asked you this before. Like, have you got to that point where so when you do a job for somebody and you do their fit out, blah blah blah, and they're happy with it, this and the other. And, they're referring you to other customers, and if they give feedback, they'll be like, "Oh, Rodney's such and such person, this and the other person." Like when you're young, like you have it. Like someone might say something about you. You might be your teacher or somebody, and they'll say something like a particular trait that you have that's desirable, whatever. So they might say, "Oh yeah, Rodney, Rodney's got this, that, and the other," but you don't actually really quite believe. You just acknowledge that this person has said a nice thing about you. Have you got to that point where you're now like, you've done enough now that you actually you see yourself the way other people see you? So when someone does say, "Yeah, Rodney's gonna go," let's say they said he's gonna go above and beyond when are you now at a point where you're like, no, I will go above and beyond, and I know that when you come to me and you say, this is the job I want doing, I'll look at how I'm going to be able to get that done, or are you still in the kind of that limbo area where you're like, of course I'm going to get the job done, but I'm not putting myself up on any form of pedestal yet. I'm still kind of just figuring it out, or like I said, or do you see yourself the way other people see you?
I think I've had to learn like some tough lessons.
Yeah.
Like every job is for the most part the same, but it's got its own unique challenges, right?
Yes, yeah.
And one of the things that is, so you go through the normal steps. Mm-hmm. How I was taught to do my job, right, in terms of follow this process and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
I still price jobs to make money.
Yeah.
Clients will generally not tell you what their budget is, and if they do, it's less than what they've got, what they're prepared to spend.
Right, yeah.
But ultimately, you give me a set of drawings,
Mm-hmm.
I will price that job as I see it, do site visits, price it as you see it, with your margin.
Right.
Any negotiations after or before the job starts. So once you've submitted your price, we can negotiate. But we're negotiating to suit, obviously, what I know I can do the job for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't just do jobs just because, want to keep. Sometimes you do jobs. Some clients, especially like your repeat clients.
Yeah.
You do jobs for them at a slightly better rate.
Yeah. Well, they're really customers.
I know some firms start taking the piss because they think this is just guaranteed work, but that's how you lose. Yeah. Like loyalty.
When you get complacent. And you're
So I try and maintain that working relationships.
Absolutely,
And some clients have become friends because now they know how I work. They know that if there's a problem, it'll be fixed. Because you'd be surprised how many clients we come across who have had the job started by another contractor, and then the other contractor takes a bit of money and then gone.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned this. And I found that wow.
Bro, it happens every other month. We get this, but then at the same time, don't take the piss. Yeah. Right? Because I know who I am, and I know where I draw the line. And with clients, there's that thing where they say the customer's always right. They're not. No. And I don't pretend that they are when they're not. Yeah. Right? It's you need to manage people's expectations, but you also need to be very firm in who you are as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I try and make sure that my lads, and I've got a great team, and I see it sometimes on some jobs where client has the contact details of my lads, right, and start asking them to do stuff on the side, orders, and my lads just read the message and ignore it, and then they'll just send it to me, right. And there's a way of dealing with that.
Well, it's one of them things, Nick, because if I'm a customer and I don't actually know much about anything to do with building, but I've got some expectation now, and I think it can be done, and I then start going dishing out this and the other. If you're not the sort of person that can sort of, as you said, manage my expectation and bring me back down, but listen, when it does go wrong at the end of it, I'm gonna come and say you did it wrong. Yeah. Because in my head, I'm like, I'm telling you what I want. Yeah. Then if you're not able to then say to me, no. If you just like sort of placate me and you're like, oh, okay, I guess so, and then you try and it doesn't work, I'm gonna be looking at you like, do you know what I mean? So
and I learned, luckily, because I was my old firm, everything was so intimate that you get to see things that you wouldn't see maybe if you're working for a massive corporation, because you just true. So I got to see everything, like all the fuck ups, all like even when clients are just being cheeky with payments, the conversations you're privy to, because I used to spend a lot of time with my boss.
Yeah.
So you're privy to the phone calls, the negotiations, just a manner in which you deal with certain things.
Yeah.
And then I just adopted those things, and you adapt it to suit who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes, you know, you watch some companies will have people that they send to deal with certain clients because these people's personalities
Right. Okay. Yeah.
either match.
Yeah.
You know, it's like matching someone's energy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Or client owes you money, send this person.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I will purposely not get involved at design stage because I've got guys in house that do the design. I will not get involved because I want the designers to deal with the client.
Yeah.
Any design input from the client goes to the designers, not to me.
Yeah.
Any negotiations can be had with me once I've priced the job, because sometimes what happens is I want everything confirmed on paper before the job starts, because I don't want this thing where, oh, you told me this was going to be this much. I'm like, no, look, we've got it all written down on paper.
Exactly.
If it's not down on paper,
Then we didn't.
then
Let's not talk about it.
And that's the easiest way of managing these contracts, because any disputes, you know, all that information needs to have a chain of custody. You need to be able to look back and say, okay, what did we agree on this date, on this date, and this date? Minutes for every meeting. If we have a phone call, I will send you an email and say, listen, on this date at this time, we've agreed extra.
Yeah, just
confirm.
confirm.
Yeah, and I hate doing that, but unfortunately, that's just necessary. How it has to be, right?
And I think that those are the I think in any, those are the things, like in any company or any business that you start. I just call it like necessary admin, like that you kind of, because you've got the job itself in a sense of, all right, you're helping people build their shops or whatever it is. Yeah. But then like it's just those other things around it that little, like they're little sort of things that you'd kind of, or habits that would be ideal really to in any business that you went into, in terms of, if you, especially when there's like negotiations and deals to be made, in the sense of, if we agree on this, let it go, let it be down let there be proof of, I said this and I said that, because 100% later on down the line, especially when you have like a project that's going to be taken over like months or even maybe like a year.
Yeah.
Like later on down the line, someone then, because they feel a certain type of way, or if they run out a bit of money, and then you say, you know, have you got X amount, and if they haven't got that, then they might then start back. Well, I don't know if I actually. That's not really what I agreed to. And so I think if you don't, I think as you said, it's not something that you want to do, but it's necessary, just so that you can avoid that grey area, especially when. And I think it's important to have that, especially when you have numbers involved, because numbers for the most part are absolute. So long as if you can get it that you don't have none, there is no grey area. When I say this is the price, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do it by, I think that is, you can't go wrong really.
Yeah, you kind of have to be a man of your word. Yeah. Right. So sometimes, if you tell a client this will be done within this time frame, it has to be done. Yeah. If you know you can't achieve that, you have to tell them beforehand.
Yeah. Even if it means losing the job, you just got to let them know.
Yeah, and
again, and to be fair, it might be a case that what the time they're expecting it is wild. So it's a case of, like I said, letting them know that. And I think, and because the thing is, to be fair, just when you mentioned that, like, there's times where you're having to do damage control, where there was another contractor, and they've just kind of left it. I think it is. I think sometimes situations like that do come about because the communication at the beginning hasn't been forthcoming on sort of, maybe you're just on one end, but it's been a case of maybe this other contractor is bitten off a bit more than they can chew. Yeah. And then it's got to a point where they're like, you know, I'm gonna, because I don't think anybody really sets off saying, you know what, I'm gonna go and say to people, I'm gonna build their thing, and then I'm gonna.
Nah, they do that. 100%.
Serious.
And yeah, I know for a fact.
Serious.
That there's firms out there who take on jobs with no intention of finishing them. You know, we take deposits and then stage payments.
Yeah.
They will take the deposit.
Yeah.
They'll come start the job, and then suddenly no communication. Yeah, mate.
That's wild.
I wish I could name like one in particular.
Yeah.
But that's their MO.
That's wild.
And it happens everywhere. Like construction, it's a mad little game to be in.
Yeah.
But you see it all the time, and it's unfortunately it then affects like some of us who just
because people are
want
going
to
think
do these jobs, get some money, and like crack on with our lives. And it's I've got like dispute with one contractor, which is ongoing for those same reasons.
Really,
they're just dodgy people out there, mate, and
Jesus Christ.
Unfortunately, when there's money involved, people change.
90%.
People change. I had a situation like probably a couple months ago with a subcontractor who, you know, before any monies were exchanged, like cool bunch, and then as soon as monies are exchanged, you start to see the change in behaviour now, right? And it's just making sure whatever money you pay, you can afford to lose. Right. So you control people's performance based on how much you've paid them. Right. So we all need to earn our money, right? Mm-hmm. My client's not going to pay me 100% up front before I've done anything because I haven't worked for that yet. And I don't expect them to. So I always try and make sure the payments match the amount of work that's been done. Yeah. And that's as fair as you can be. You then have some clients who will hold money at the end. Right. Because they're not happy with this, they're not happy with that. Sometimes it becomes a game. They say they're not happy with stuff, or that's not been done quite right. But it then becomes, you've seen it all before. So sometimes you're like, look, what are we doing? But it just is what it is, and I
guess that's part of the game, I guess.
It's crazy, but when it's good, it's worth it, mate. Like, I know you've asked me before, like if it's worthwhile. Yeah. And as mad as it gets, I've had months, bro, where, and naturally staff gets paid first, I get paid last. Yeah. I've had months where I've not paid myself, or I literally pay myself $1,000, or pay myself 500 quid because that's just cash flow is doing what it does. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Yeah. But I wouldn't change it for anything. Yeah. I've had times where I haven't had a point where I've been like, nah, this ain't worth it. Like, I'm shutting shop. But I've had times where I'm like, at what point do I have, like, let's say a year where I can pay myself every month and just relax, everything, and I've just accepted that will probably never happen.
Oh well, I think that's what happens. I think what happens is, like, especially now, like with social media, and I think it started way back before when you just had sort of films and stuff. I think what happens is, like, you get like a glimpse of something. So you'll hear that someone's a contractor, and you'll hear like of a certain period of time, or even just one time where they've been able to splash out a bit, and naturally you kind of you equate that to all the time. So in your head you think, if you're such and such, then you can do this all the time. And I think, with the exception of, you know, being some professional athlete in the top league, I think that's a case of, I think if anyone has a business, you'll get those are the ups, and then of course you have the downs where you don't get to do that. But I think naturally you assume to yourself, well, you can be doing this all day, every day. You don't know this person had worked more or less for 5 years to be able to enjoy this particular thing that you're seeing that makes you think that's some wild lifestyle. And I think as you said, it's only when you get into it you realize, okay, that's only those moments are actually the exception rather than the rule when it comes to this sort of thing. Because I think it's one thing, like I can only imagine, like once you get to a certain point, it's a case of, okay, now I need to maintain this. Because I think I'm guessing initially he was like, let me see if I can get a job, like in terms of like work for your company. Then you would have got it, and then you're like, okay, how do I get the next one? And then you'd have got the next one. Then you're like, okay, how do I get to one when I've got a few on the go? Then you'd have been like, okay, how do you know what I mean? It's almost as a case of there's never.
Yeah. So in terms of it's a weird one, because you're right. When I first started, I was offered that one job.
Yeah.
And I'd calculated that, okay, this one job, the payments are going to come in on these dates.
Yeah.
It will mean that at this point, I can take some money, pay myself this month. But shop fitting, by the time you start, you're finishing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, bro, a long fit out is like 20 weeks. That's a long one.
Really?
On average, we're in and out 6-8 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So we do like 4 jobs at the same time.
Right.
And we just literally, one finishes, you're down to 3, you need to be moving on to the 4th one again.
Right.
So all year long, you want to be doing 4 jobs at the same time. So, you know, got 3 good teams, you'll be okay. If you're just doing one job for 2 months, and then you're looking for another job to do in 2 months' time, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
So luckily, before I finished that first job, I had another one lined up. I had one team, had another job lined up.
Right.
That one job turned into 2 jobs because we'd done so well on job number 1.
Yeah.
So now I've got 3.
Right. Okay.
We're handing over number 1. But we're starting 2 and 3.
Right, okay, yeah.
While we're doing 2 and 3, we get number 4.
Right.
Number 4 was that big that it took, I think it was over 7 months. It was big.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but you know that, okay, if you've priced it right, there's enough money in there to keep you going for that.
Yeah,
as long as that job's running, then yeah, you're good.
Because I was gonna ask, like, and again, like, whether, like, you know, what do you call it? If you're not comfortable, by all means, don't say no figures. But in terms of, just to give anyone who's listening, like, an idea of scope, in terms of where you're at, in terms of, so, like, the kind of revenue that you're at this point, at this stage, while you're sort of, because how long have you had the company for? And have you been, like, sort of, been running your own company now?
So the first company, Trident,
we
ended up just getting rid.
Yeah.
It wasn't no falling out or anything. I just decided, you know what, for the same reasons I wanted to work for myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes having a business partner is not good.
Yeah.
Right? And because what happens is you have to look at how much work are both of you doing for the business.
Yeah.
And then how much are you both taking out?
Yes.
Right? What benefit are you getting versus what my input is?
Yes.
And then we just decided, look, you were doing your own thing before I started.
Yeah.
I've done X amount. So unless you're willing to kind of match that, then I'm going to take this over here.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you know what? Having the 2 businesses is now a bit of a burden.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take it over here.
Right.
Okay, cool. But we'll still do stuff together separately.
Yeah.
So that's how it went.
Fair enough.
So that's how I ended up incorporating Framework.
Right, okay. Which is that's your company now?
Yeah. So Framework, I'm tempted it's March 2022 is when I incorporated that.
Yeah. Right, okay. So would you say, like, in terms of like whichever one you're comfy with, what would you say your roughly revenue is now, or in terms of what's it worth roughly? Again, just to give, but again, you ain't even got to say the exact number, but just to sort of, because where I'm going to lead to,
it's all on Company's House anyway, so people, people look it up anyway. Yeah. But basically, from March last year to the end of the financial year, I think the turnover was 660k. Right. We can tell you turnover because you won't be able to work out my profits.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But generally, that for the first year of trading, I wanted to do more. Yeah. Because it's just what I want.
Absolutely.
But what tends to happen is, you know, you meet a client.
Yeah.
You engage, you start talking about if they've got a site, if they don't have drawings, it's going to be 3 months before that job starts.
Yeah.
Right. The ones I like is when a designer gets in contact, they've got a tender pack.
Yes.
Because I know most of the things have been put in place.
Right, yeah.
Right. I just want the program. Once we agree costs, we can start. So some of the jobs are spilled over into this financial year.
Yeah.
Right. But I wanted to do a mill. That was my target.
Right.
I figured if I can do a mill, but then what's happened now is, since March, between March and now, basically nearly at that point already.
Really?
Yeah, but it's just been manic, like, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Because all the mistakes I made last year.
Yeah.
This year I've just been a little bit more.
Yeah.
Strict.
Yeah.
I've been turning jobs away because I've learned the type of stuff to not get involved with, because you end up wasting time.
Yeah.
You make like a couple grand on like a little job,
but
sometimes it's not worth it because the admin sometimes is nearly the same as on a whole project. Just trying to manage like changing a shop front.
Absolutely.
So, and then I've been more active on the social media, on the posts, and I've worked out like each month get at least one job just from a post on Instagram, which is weird to me. Like it's
I think it is wild when you're like you look at like social media, because I mean there's some people that understand it fully, but I know what you mean, because there's an element, because I think it's probably because for yourself.
Yeah,
it's very rare you see something on social media and be like, you know what, I wasn't thinking about that, but now I'm going to go spend money on that. Yeah. Whereas I think for some people, I think that is the case, or you know, they go on social media to look for that.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of it is, I only put stuff because I run the social media page, and I have been toying with the idea of just paying someone to look after it full time, someone who does that as a job, right? But there's a level of intimacy that I like with me being on site, seeing something that makes me feel like, let me get my phone out and film this, then post it in my own time. It can be detrimental in that I've not checked whether that's the best time to post. Copyright issues. I've took me a while to notice that on the business page I can't just add whatever song I want.
You can't.
So little things like that but I like doing that myself, and
it makes it more genuine, doesn't it? Like there's and I think any people would appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think you can also see whether it's just someone who's just paid to do it.
They only post at these times. And
exactly.
I want to reach my target audience. Right. And I want to showcase what we do and only what we do. So if you want something that's kind of out of our remit, then you're not going to see it on my Instagram anyway.
Absolutely,
So I love that the people that contact me are contacting me because they've seen something similar to what they want.
Exactly,
And that's the reason they're coming to me.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we can engage in more genuine.
I was going to say, yeah, well, there's no
Conversations
time
then.
wasting, is there? There is,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of straight to the point of if you're here,
Yeah,
and we both know why you're here.
yeah. And, I've got just finished one project for a client that came to me via Instagram.
Nice.
I'm on another project for him now, and he's offered me some more stuff. His business
Perfect,
partners offered me some stuff, and it's
Like, it's the thing, it kind of starts to spiral, it has that snowball effect.
yeah,
Well, when it gets going, it starts to, like, cause one other thing I want to ask you, like, so there's two things I want to ask you before we wrap up. The first one is, what's the vision for Frameworks in sense of, I know you're right now at the moment you mainly do shop fit outs. Like, are you gonna kind of stick with it? Are you gonna branch into properties? Are you gonna kind of start branching into? I know not all construction is exactly the same in the sense of how you do it. So are you gonna start branching off into other areas of construction? And then also the last question I'll ask you is, for somebody who's any up and coming sort of, I guess, because what would you be? Would you be a developer? Or would you be are you a contractor? Are you a developer? Are you a...
I am a contractor.
Yeah, so I guess if anyone is going to become a contractor, up and coming contractor, what would be your advice in terms of them just sort of just getting into it? But first, what's the vision?
Vision, I guess, to grow the business into...
Because sometimes I say it's a case of you don't like that, like sometimes you don't even have a vision. It's just a case of I'm gonna just go where it's going, and it's kind of just I'm gonna let it sort of take on a.
Yeah, I'd love to say I want it to just be what it's gonna be, but I don't like that chaos. Like, it sounds like there's actually no plan there.
Yeah.
But look, if I want to get the business to 5 times bigger than what it is now. Right. So if I can do 5 mil at 20% margin,
nice.
I know that as a person, I don't need any more than that.
Right.
Because, that kind of money can open other doors for me. I've always been into my cars.
Absolutely,
I don't even know how many cars I've had at this point, but it's always been like a genuine love and hobby for me.
Yeah.
And I've purposely never turned it into a business, even though I could have.
Yes.
But more and more, I want to turn that into a business again.
Ah, okay.
Right. Because I just enjoy it. Like,
no, even way back when we were kids, cars have always been 100%.
So
I completely understand.
And I invest money into things that I feel obviously will give me great returns.
Absolutely.
So property's always going to be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
More and more I do look at, opportunities, especially where we live, like in this part of the country. I want to start investing in that.
Fair play, man.
It helps that I've got a team of guys who good bit of land could build some property on.
Absolutely, yeah.
2-3 houses, whatever, and see if it's actually as lucrative as it seems to be.
Exactly.
Right? But I've never done it before, so I read up a lot on it. I watch stuff, and doing what I do puts me in positions where I meet people who already do this. Yeah. Property developers who then branch out into hospitality, so now they want a restaurant or a bar. Yeah. I've been offered, you did some work there actually at the extension in St Albans.
Yes, yeah.
So that was the first extension we ever did.
Right.
And that went well. Yeah. And it just made me feel like, I could do this for myself.
No, right.
So I want to grow. I don't want to move away from shop fitting as such. Yeah. And I want to have my own bar one day. as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we fit out restaurants and bars all the time, and sometimes I look at them, I take inspiration from pretty much everything I've done, and I'm like, I could do this better, I could do that better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I could probably fuck it up just as well, but I want to, because I look at the kind of money they make when things are going well.
Yeah, and then you think, Jesus.
And my business doesn't make money every day.
Yeah.
Right? So the contract sum is set.
Yeah.
You're only going to make this much money from this one job.
Yeah.
If I have a restaurant or a bar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can just keep,
do $5,000 a day.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Every day, indefinitely. As long as things are going well, indefinitely, I can. So I want to get into that. I don't really know where I'm going to stop.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens. I think sometimes especially when you do, because again, as you said, when you first started out, you wasn't necessarily thinking, I'm going to have my own company.
Yeah.
I think things just went that way, and you was like, you know what, this makes sense. So let me carry on going that way. So yeah, now I can be on that. And I think on some level, I think sometimes that those kind of work out the best way, because there's an element that it's because you're kind of the next steps are appearing as you take them. And as you do certain things, the next step is becoming like it kind of, the door opens that like, okay, these are the options. I think those ones tend to kind of, unless you're one of them people that's fortunate enough that you have, as you know, a solid sort of vision, and you just know exactly, okay, I'm going to do A, then B, then C, then D, then fair enough. But I think for the most part, for most people, they'll have a plan and an idea. It goes left, and then they kind of have to adapt. So I think to take that approach where you're like, you know what, I'm going to kind of just sort of take it as it's going, sort of take it wherever it's going, sort of thing, and then just kind of feel your way through the journey. I think I don't really think you can go wrong, really, because I mean, so far so good, really.
I think the other thing that I've learned the last few years is your risk appetite just increases. As soon as you make that initial jump, you become just, you're no longer as risk averse to, because we all fear losing money and failing and other people seeing us fail. I could not care less. Like, if for whatever reason the business stops working, I'll just start another one.
I was going to say, and I think
something else that I have an idea. Right, like that's what the cars. Even my mum and dad were like, "What? Years ago, why don't you just start a car business?" And I was like, "Nah." Because it's my hobby, like, and once it turns into work,
then I have to do it. Right now, I want to do it.
And the other reason that I didn't realise till get a little bit older was it just didn't seem that glamorous to me.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. But the thing is that, because in social media, a lot of things have now become like, social media has really sort of enhanced a lot of things, and it's sort of, like I said, you could do so much with social media. So yeah, but I completely understand that thing of, this is a hobby, that's something I like. If I take, because you got to think to yourself, the same way you're doing with the contracting, you'll have to start applying those same things with the cars, in a sense. And I guess I can only imagine. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's something you love, so I think eventually you kind of just work through those things. But I can imagine
it's learning to manage your finances as well. Because anyone can try and start a business, right? And you can make money. If you're disciplined enough to, to manage your money well, your business can be a success. I found getting clients is the easy part. Getting clients is the easy part. Really? Getting these jobs is not difficult.
Right.
So if you wanted to start a construction business, I'd say, okay, go try it. Do all the research you need. Right. Try it if you wish. You will get clients. But there's the health and safety. There's contracts. There's, one of the biggest problems you'll have is people. People seem to be the hardest thing to manage. because staff retention, you've worked as, you've laboured on construction sites.
Yeah.
You've seen.
The day when I first when I'd go to places and in fact almost every labouring job I've gone to from an agency, every single one of them has said, "Oh yeah, so and so didn't turn up," because it's always been like I've been called the day before. Can you go? And it always baffled me to that someone would get offered work and then just not turn up.
People will just be people, man.
And I'm just like, that is wild to me.
The other side of that is, I don't use agency anymore. I learned that very quickly.
Really?
Yeah. I just don't bother because if you're good enough, you're not going to need to go to an agency,
That's
right?
true.
If you're a good chippy, good bricklayer, you'll always be in work. Right. So, and I'm not saying agencies don't supply good labour. Because sometimes, for instance, all my lads now, if for whatever reason I can't keep the business going, I have to let them go.
Yeah.
But they're all amazing.
Right.
So the first thing they're going to do is ring up their friends, and their friends will know that they're that good. If they've got something for them, they'll take them back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they don't have friends in the business or in the industry, they'll go to agency temporarily. Then whoever they're working for
they'll see
is going to nick them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I just try and keep the lads that I've got, keep them as a team.
Yeah.
And then, just try and be disciplined try not to be frivolous.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's, working in London is what it is. Sometimes construction, drinking culture, blah blah blah.
Well, yeah, there is there's a massive social culture in London.
Yeah, so I just try and I
know what you mean. Cause I think because there's Rodney and then there's the company, and I think because of course you kind of have to differentiate those two.
Yeah, you have
entities.
to be two different people.
So I think you can't, and because where Rodney might be like, yeah, why not? The owner of the company has to be like, absolute no, not at all. So I need to jump between those two. Can be, and I think it's that thing of you kind of have to learn when to not be the owner of the company.
I can't, and I also can't be your friend all the time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I've got a company to run.
Yeah.
And whether they see it or not, I have to feed your families.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So little things like the guys will take the piss. So like the van gets damaged or the truck gets damaged or someone gets a speeding ticket or parking ticket.
Yeah.
Looking at me like, I'm like,
and the thing is,
little things like that. You're just like,
and the thing is, there's an element that I know you didn't do that on purpose, so I kind of want to help you out. But at the same time, I need you to understand this is costing money.
Take some accountability.
Yeah, you need to you're the one who. Do you know what I mean? So
because bro, at the end of the day, look, something, God forbid, something happens.
Yeah.
Guys get injured or client gets injured or whatever. It all falls down on me.
Yeah, 100%.
So you always have to be wary of that, and you always try and I live in a space where I always assume the worst is going to happen.
Yeah, you almost have to.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to get caught with your pants down.
And I used to lose sleep over it, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you're constant. Every time a job starts or every time the guys get to work, you're just thinking every eventuality.
Yeah.
I even had to employ a company that deals with health and safety, where they do their visits. Really? And you have to have a conversation. Don't be friendly with the lads.
Yeah.
Like, don't familiarise yourself too much with them.
Yeah, then they need to see you as...
When you come, I want them to...
shape up. Yeah.
Don't tell them you're coming. Because, again, unfortunately, I have become friends with them.
Yeah.
Because they're my team.
Yeah.
So when I come... You saw when we went to one of my sites, I look around, I see the mess, and I look at the uniforms.
Yeah.
You remember I had to ask one of the lads, like, where's your uniform?
Yeah.
And then the excuses come out, and then what I'm not going to sack him because he's not in his uniform.
Exactly, yeah.
But
it's got some kind of thing like there's the pros and cons to being able to having an intimate team.
Yeah.
Then like the pros are I know these people, and you know you can depend on them, and they're gonna, and it's a case of if I get along with you and I like you, I might stay that those couple of hours like late. I'm not gonna ask for any more money.
Yeah.
Or if there's a problem, I'm gonna go out my way to be like, listen, by the way, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it comes to addressing certain problems, if I then try to turn around and be like, oi, I'm your boss, there's going to be a case of, wait a minute. And I think, but then when you're on the other hand, if you don't have that intimacy and they're just employees and they're just numbers, then that's when you kind of, you kind of just have to hope that these people are gonna, do what you ask them to do. And there's going to be a case of, it's either going to come down to, well, pay me more money if you want me to go the extra mile. But I think it's a thing of in any job, for it to be done well, the person needs to they need to care about it to some extent. So they either need to, if they're a chippy, then I need to be like, I'm in just when I do chippy work, I just need to make sure it's good. They need to actually care about it to an extent.
Yeah, you soon work that out, like very early on, like who cares about how good their work is.
Yeah.
Because it's different subcontractors working together as a collective to produce, like, this fit out needs to look how it looks on the drawings.
Yes.
But there's the more intricate details in the joinery, like down to the mastic guy at the end, right? So you get to learn, and if you don't spend time on site with these guys, you'll get to the end of the job and you'll look at it and you'll be like, what? But you need to just keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
And the guys that are not just, and look, there's different levels of expertise, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, I've got some guys who are not quite as good as others.
Yeah.
So you put them
on
some jobs where the client's like, look, I don't care too much about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you put them with the really good guys in the hopes that
they can sort of pick that up
and they learn. But it's...
No, I completely understand, man. But like in terms of...
Your second question.
Yeah, so to finish off, there's for an up-and-coming contractor, what is like... What's like a rule that you what's something you can tell them where it's a case of, look, if you understand anything, understand this, or if you only understand one thing about contracting going into it, make sure you do this, or make sure you understand this. Like what advice would you give to someone coming up in this day and age? Would it be get on the social media thing soon as, would it be a case of get to know who you are as a person so you can sort of navigate other people? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. What would your advice be?
If you don't know something, get someone that does.
Right.
And you're never gonna know everything.
Yeah.
But make sure you surround yourself with people that know what they're doing.
Right.
Whether it's health and safety.
Yeah.
You'll need good subcontractors around you as well.
Yeah.
Build good relationships with good subcontractors, because your firm, unless you want to hire sparks, plumbers in-house, you're going to need to be reliant on subcontracting firms to come in and do certain things. Right? Your clients will always just be who they are. If they're not using you, they'll use someone else.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have like a special kind of relationship with them. They just want to know you're competent.
Yeah.
And your biggest downfall can be a subcontractor of yours.
Right.
So you can have, for instance, we're a shop fitting firm. I don't have in-house plumbers. I don't have in-house electricians.
Yeah.
When we do kitchen suppression systems, I have to subcontract that out.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've worked with different subcontracting firms that do certain things.
Yeah.
And I've just got to learn which ones to use and which ones not to use. But like every other business, people change within those businesses.
Of course, yeah.
So, as they change, the work ethic and the manner in which they work changes as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, but it's a very small industry. Don't burn bridges.
Right.
So, Just
Hey, man.
build a good network of people.
Yeah.
And then that way, if you ever need help with something, there should always be people you can pick up the phone to and call. Things move so quickly, so you might need help after hours.
Yeah.
You know, permits, landlords on developments you work with, you want to have good rapport with them.
Right.
Because sometimes they can make your life hell.
Really?
Yeah. So the whole permit system, submitting RAMs, sometimes you need the job finished tomorrow. You submit your RAMs today and you'll get a response back saying, I'll review those tomorrow afternoon.
Jesus.
You need to be able to be like, do me that favour.
Yeah.
So you're always calling in favours.
Yeah.
But always be prepared to pay for good people.
Fair enough.
'Cause don't expect people to do shit for free. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
100%.
And cash flow is king.
Yeah.
Protect your cash flow as much as you can, because you can have a couple $100,000 in the bank and that will go in like a week in your shop fitting. Because
Serious?
yeah. So
Jeez.
and just try and avoid like loans and credit accounts are great.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, I sleep better knowing I don't owe anyone anything. And don't get me wrong, I've got credit accounts and I open them just in case.
Yeah.
Only in the worst case scenario.
That if you needed just a bit of...
Yeah, like, because you don't want to be paying for stuff up front all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but ideally that's the position you want to be in, because you don't want to get an invoice in 30 days time for like 25 grand.
Yeah.
When you've got 15 grand in the account.
100%.
Because
100%.
you'd rather, this is how I see it anyway, you'd rather your business fail because you've got no more cash, but you don't owe anyone anything.
Right.
Than
to be literally,
to have to shut the business down with 100k owing to people.
Yeah, you still owe people money, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Because again, it's a small industry and you become known for that. I don't work with that guy. He doesn't pay in time and it's just no good. So
fair play, man. Bruv, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said to anybody that's come on our podcast, bruv, I can't wait to sort of where you take it to. Like in 5 years' time, I'd love to sit back down even sooner than that.
No, I appreciate that, man.
Thanks so much for coming, bruv. And
No problem, bruv.
Can't wait to see what you do with it, brother.
Thanks, man.
Hey, bruv.
It's too cold now, bro. I need another one.